When you're recovering from narcissistic abuse, it's quite okay to ask painful questions like, why does God allow them to get away with all of the things they do? But what if I told you the deeper spiritual truth is much heavier? A narcissist was not just handed a dark soul because a cruel deity sitting above the skies on a throne decided, I am going to curse this individual because I hate them and I'm going to let them destroy and ruin other people's lives. That is not how it works. A narcissist's condition is the direct result of their own repeated choices. Over and over again, they choose the lie over the truth. They choose manipulation over vulnerability. But they relentlessly enable their own toxic ego. Eventually, God steps back and allows that darkness to become their permanent nature. It is the ultimate consequence of their own free will, I must say. Before they chose the mask, they are forever denied the true blessings of the human experience. And that is what we are going to talk about today. 5 gifts God gives to an empath but denies to narcissists. Let's explore the profound spiritual disparity between you and the narcissist. When someone actively chooses to suppress their own humanity to protect a fragile ego, there is a massive spiritual cost. God allows them to have the illusion of control they so desperately want, but in exchange, they are locked out of the deepest, most meaningful parts of existence. Here are the 5 gifts you possess that they will never ever experience. Number 1, the power to truly heal from past trauma and permanently change your behavior for the better, and that means changing your destiny. Healing requires one fundamental ingredient. Can you tell me what that is? Absolute brutal honesty with yourself. To heal, you must be able to look in the mirror, acknowledge your wounds, admit your mistakes, and feel genuine remorse for the times your pain may have spilled over onto others. Because you are an empath, God granted you the heavy but beautiful burden of self-reflection. You have the capacity to say, I am broken, I made a mistake, and I need to change. You have that conscience, it is alive. Because of this, you have the divine power to actually evolve, to adapt. You can outgrow your trauma. A narcissist is entirely denied this gift. Why? Because they refuse to take accountability. Admitting a flaw feels like psychological death to them. I have talked about it, right? Because they chose to protect their false image over facing their reality. God allows them to stay trapped in their own delusion. They can never heal because they refuse to admit they are abusive. They do not ever integrate their shadow self, the parts of us that we do not like, the dark parts of us. They just become shadow eventually by enabling it. They can never change their behavior because they refuse to admit they're ever wrong. This is why a narcissist at age 20, they're doomed to wander in the exact same toxic circles for their entire life, while you have the gift of continuous, beautiful evolution. 2, the ability to love someone entirely for who they are, not just for what they can do for you. The capacity for true, unutilized love is one of the highest spiritual gifts a human being can receive. It is the ability to look at another person, strip away their money, their status, looks, and their utility, and simply love the essence of their soul. You love people for who they are. You find joy in their mere existence. When you connect with someone, it is a blending of spirits, not a business transaction. Because a narcissist chose to view the world as a hierarchy of power and control, God allowed their heart to harden into a transactional ledger. A narcissist does not love people. They love what people provide. To them, other human beings are just appliances. You do not love a refrigerator, do you? You love that it keeps your food cold. The moment it stops working, you throw it out and replace it. That is exactly how a narcissist views human connection. They are permanently denied the warmth, the safety, and the divine beauty of unconditional love. They live in an eternally freezing, calculated reality where everyone is just an object to be used. They will go to their grave never having experienced the simple, profound warmth of loving someone just for being exactly who they are. Number 3, true intuition that naturally guides you rather than paranoid hypervigilance used to control others. God gifts the empath with true intuition, a quiet, divine knowing that operates deep within your spirit. It is a peaceful, grounded compass that guides you away from danger and toward truth. When you walk into a room or meet a new person, your intuition reads the energy. It does not operate out of fear, it operates out of alignment. It is a protective shield that helps you navigate the world with grace. A narcissist does not have intuition because they built their entire life on a foundation of lies, manipulation, and hidden shame. They are granted paranoia instead. They are completely disconnected from divine guidance. What looks like intuition in a narcissist is actually just a state of chronic, exhausting hypervigilance. They are constantly scanning the room, paranoid that their mask is going to slip, paranoid that someone is going to expose them, and paranoid that they are losing control over you, over the family, or somebody is trying to poison them. They live in a constant state of psychological warfare. You're guided by a peaceful inner light. They are hunted by their own dark shadows. Because they chose to be a predator, they must live with the exhausting paranoia of always watching their back. Number 4, the capacity to feel genuine, unselfish joy when you see someone else succeed. There's a pure, radiant energy that comes from witnessing another person achieve their dreams, find happiness, or experience a breakthrough. Because your spirit is not entirely consumed by your own ego. You can tap into this universal abundance. When your friend succeeds, you feel a genuine rush of unselfish joy. You do not feel diminished by their light. You feel warmed by it. This is the divine gift that allows you to experience happiness even when it is not directly about you. A narcissist is completely denied this joy because they operate from a place of extreme psychological scarcity. They believe that there is only a limited amount of happiness, success, and love in the world. If you get some, it means they were robbed. When a narcissist sees someone else succeed, even their own spouse or their own child, they do not feel joy. They feel this dark, burning psychological envy. Your success feels like a direct attack on their grandiosity. They're tortured by the happiness of others. Imagine the sheer hell of living a life where every time someone around you smiles, you feel an agonizing stab of jealousy and inadequacy. Because they chose to make themselves the center of the universe, God allowed them to be eternally isolated by their own envy. Number 5, the power to take your darkest pain and turn it into wisdom, art, or a higher purpose. This is perhaps the ultimate gift of the empath. Spiritual alchemy. You have walked through the absolute fire of narcissistic abuse. You have been betrayed, broken, and pushed to the absolute edge of your sanity. But God gave you the power of transmutation. You have the ability to sit with that agonizing pain, process it, and weave it into something incredibly beautiful. You take the trauma they gave you and you turn it into profound empathy for others. You turn it into art, into boundaries, into a thriving career, or into a mission to protect those who are vulnerable. You take the poison they injected into you and you turn it into medicine for the world. The narcissist's pain is entirely better because they refuse to look inward. Their pain has no purpose. It is just a rotting, infected wound that they dragged around with them, desperately trying to bleed on people who did not cut them. They never learn from their suffering. They never gain wisdom from their failures. Their pain just turns into bitterness, cruelty, and an endless cycle of abuse. They choose to be the victim of their own narrative, and so God allowed their pain to remain destructive and meaningless. By choosing their toxic ego, they forfeited their own soul. They chose a life devoid of real love, healing, joy, and intuition. They built their own prison out of pride, and God simply allowed them to lock the door from the inside. You, on the other hand, have the keys to the kingdom. Yes, The fire was painful. Yes, the abuse was horrific. But you walked out of that fire with gifts they can never touch. Your soul is sovereign. Your heart is capable of true love, and your pain has forged you into a weapon of light. Do not ever let a person who lives in a permanent void convince you that your empathy is a weakness. It is the very signature of the divine upon your soul. If you are ready to fully embrace these gifts, stop carrying the weight of their darkness and step into the truest, most powerful version of yourself.